Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TNN Raw and Uncut, where you get nothing but news delivered to you with no filter and no script, by none other than Tommy Sotomayor.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TNN News Raw. I'm your host, Mr. Tommy Sotomayor, and the story I'm about to tell you is about a young man named Darren Manning. Now, while Peyton Manning was getting ready for the Super Bowl, Darren Manning himself was coming out of an emergency room having to have emergency surgery on his testicles. Now, when you hear this story from the mouth of the young man and no reply from the police department, you might start to feel the way that I feel. And I want all of you to be careful when watching this, because some of the testimony is graphic. So please watch, and I'll come back with my commentary. Go ahead and roll that disgusting bean footage.
Live in Spring Garden with more on this story. Chris.
On the 16-year-old charter school student says he was roughed up by Philadelphia police so bad during a recent arrest it sent him to the hospital with possible injuries that could last a lifetime. We do want to warn you, some of the details of this story are graphic.
And I'm just grateful that they just didn't kill him.
16-year-old Darren Manning is still having trouble walking a week later. He suffered serious injuries to his genitals. He claims came at the hands of a Philadelphia police officer during a recent arrest.
I think that was going overboard.
Manning, a sophomore at Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences Charter School, just got off the subway with about a dozen teammates in uniform on their way to play a high school basketball game. He says the group was confronted by police at Broad and Girard. Exactly why the students were stopped and questioned remains unclear. But Manning says he was put in handcuffs, then says during a pat-down, a female police officer squeezed his genitals so hard it ruptured his testicle.
She patted me down again, and then I felt her reach, and she grabbed my butt. And then she grabbed and squeezed again and pulled down. And that's when I heard something pop, like I felt it pop.
Hospital records show Manning spent the following night of his arrest at Children's Hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery. His mother says her son may have permanent injuries, preventing him from fathering children.
The doctor told me you need to press charges, and that just alarmed me.
Manning is now facing charges of aggravated assault and resisting arrest.
He don't deserve no felony. He's not a bad child. He's not in the streets.
And I believe he was sexually assaulted.
The founder of the school says she was with Manning 10 minutes before the incident. She says this straight-A model student hasn't had a single discipline problem in his 3-year history at the school.
So he shouldn't be able to do that to any child. But this is a 16-year-old, and that the force that was used in his private area, it sort of is concerning to me.
Now, police in the 22nd District tell us they are looking into this, and a possible internal affairs investigation may be launched in the coming days. But police also tell me that at the 8 hours that boy was in custody, he never complained, never reported any injuries. We're live in Spring Garden tonight. Chris O'Connell, Fox 29 News.
All right, Chris, thank you. A 16-year-old.
Now you hear how crazy this story is, and I want to get a few points out of the way and get a few things out of the way. One, stop saying that people up north are not as racist as people down the south. Now, this has nothing to do with it. What I'm just saying is stop saying that. People are racist all over the place. If they want to be racist, they can be racist because, hey, they own it. This is Philadelphia, up north, where there's a lot of people who are racist in Philadelphia, just like up in Boston. But let's move past that, and let's move to the fact that you saw the boy's mother. You saw the woman at the school. And you saw no man around. Now, this was an all-boys team that was running around, yet you don't see any outraged black men. Black men, this is on us because we're not there in our fathers' lives, our children's lives, but black women, it's on you too, because why is it that you're always fighting your battles yourself? You would tend to think that maybe the women would say, well, I'm not going to keep having these kids if I'm going to have to keep dealing with them by myself. And I'm surely not going to have these boys out here in the bad by themselves. See, the reason that police have no problem shooting a Trayvon Martin and doing this to a young man, because they know there's really no man there to fight. Typically in the black community, there's no man there to fight. If you separate the family, you take the man out, you've just destroyed all of the warriors and all you've left are the women. The women are easier to acquiesce to whatever is needed to be done by the ruling party. This is why we have the situation we have here in the black community. Now, this story is sick and sad, and the person who sent it to me, I want to make sure I'm able to shout them out. So let me see if I can talk and pretend that I am I'm saying the words real long and short. There it is! Kristen D. Shelton is the person who sent this to me. Kristen, thank you for sending me this too. She said, oh God, was all she said. And yes, being a man listening to this story, it hurt. Now, we don't know what was going on. We don't know what happened with the boy. We don't know what the boy said to the people. We don't know nothing. All we know is some woman was able to crush his nuts. We also know that the police officers say, well, he didn't complain about it until 8 hours later. So I guess what they're saying is maybe somebody in the holding cell crushed his nuts. They got together and got this little, scheme to say, well, crush my nuts so I can say that the police did it. Or maybe the police are lying because maybe the young man actually said something when they were doing it. Typically, when your nuts are getting crushed, you say something. So I'm going to assume the boy said something, but like most of the time when the police are brutalizing its citizens, they don't listen. But I want to point something out to you guys that I guarantee you none of you guys saw, but I'll give myself about 80% chance that I'm right. See, they talked about suing the police department, which they should. They talked about suing the police department for brutality, even though the police department is trying to have this young boy have a felony resisting arrest when he's the one that ended up in the hospital. But what you didn't think about was this. The one charge that's not there that you would assume is there, especially with us as black people and seeing this black boy, black mother, black school director, and white people reporting on it. You'd assume that they would bring up a charge of racism by the police, but they didn't. Now ask yourself, why didn't they bring up a charge of racism by the police? Well, if you haven't figured it out already, that's probably why the Terminator music is playing in the background. See, we've had several stories like this where the black female cop has went and done damage to a black male like this. One of them beat a black male like he stole something in front of the white people. She was the one taking the baton and beating him down. And you watch what happens with black men running around YouTube and running around the world, and in every courthouse in America, it is typically a black woman right there beating his ass. I promise you, 80%, because I could be wrong, and I've been wrong. Not often, and I don't think I'm wrong here. I guarantee you the woman that did this to him was a black woman. I guarantee you, because they did not say one word about racism. And if you have cops who you believe are singling out black children and then roughing them up, if it was white ones, you would have said they were racist. They singled out my son because he's black. They were hinting at that, but they never really went into it. And none of the charges were racism. Because it was a black woman who did this to a black child. Now I know none of the regressives over there, nobody flow and the regressive, they're not going to say anything about this. They're going to stand up for the young boy. No. They're going to say, you did it to get brownie points, even though you've been doing it for 4 years. It's okay, though, because someone who knows how to master their words and knows what they're talking about and actually has a cause doesn't need to follow someone else's. This is an example of a young man without a father, of a lot of young black men who don't have fathers, who when things go wrong, there is not a man there to stand up, to say no more. The warriors, the fighters for the black community are MIA. And either one day we'll come back, and we'll either come back to open arms of black women, or we'll go to somebody else and just create the mixed ones because y'all call them black anyway. Either way it goes, the men need to stand up and make a decision. And not based upon what others will let happen, but what they're going to make happen. Because that's what a man does. A man makes his way. He's not shown his way. Guys, stories like this will keep happening as long as they feel like they can do them and nothing will happen. Even in this instance, look who we're running to for help. If we believe that this was done by an establishment of white people, we're running to an establishment of more white people for help. I don't think that makes sense. Anyway, I'm Tommy Sotomayor. This is TNN News Raw. Oh, click the link inside the description box. Go and read the rest of the story. I'm out.
Beasties back, Beasties back. BC Montana was just the beginning, yeah, these Beasties back. All eyes on us, cause we destined for riches. We ain't stunting you niggas, and we don't fuck with you bitches, nah.